Well, I think the likelihood of us traveling inside of British Columbia is very, very high. Dr. Henry wanted to wait for 2 incubation periods to make sure that the positive results we've been seeing over the past number of weeks continue. I think that we're going to be hearing an announcement from government based on advice from Dr. Henry and her team that internal travel can begin. We have Destinations BC has been working on a very aggressive marketing plan that's ready to go. It's in the can. As soon as we get the high sign from Cabinet through advice from Dr. Henry, we'll be saying to British Columbians, let's go out and explore every corner of the province. And I know that some have said I'm focusing overly much on Barkerville, but there's a whole host of places that people can go. Barkerville's just one of many, many places. Fort Steele would be on that list as well. And of course, Goldstream Park, just down the street from my home. There's limitless places to go in British Columbia to experience some recreation, some relaxation. And I can't wait to give the thumbs up to British Columbians to start moving around. We've already taken steps to ensure that British Columbians get first priority when it comes to accessing our provincial campgrounds. And I think that it's only a matter of time before we can say, let's go out and explore BC. Let's make sure we're supporting those small local businesses in every corner of the province. And I can say to my friends in the Chalmette territory, which includes part of my constituency, Port Renfrew, where the Pacheedaht traditional territory is. They're Chalmette peoples. We've been working cooperatively with Indigenous peoples from the beginning, and Indigenous health authorities, First Nations health authority, to make sure that information, when we get it, is shared as widely as possible. I think certainly British Columbia is doing well. Vancouver Island hasn't had an active case in over a month. And I think that should give some comfort to the Chalmette. But I absolutely understand their anxiety. And that anxiety is not just with Indigenous peoples. There are communities in British Columbia that are still uneasy about inviting and welcoming people from away. But if we're going to talk about tourism on one hand and isolation and closing communities with the other, we're going to have an impasse. And our approach has been to try and find the best way to make sure we're meeting all of the tests. The test of protecting public health, the test of protecting Indigenous communities, but also providing opportunities for economic activity so people can pay their bills and put food on the table. And there are a range of incentives and initiatives that have been put in place by the federal government and by the province to assist businesses of all stripes, of all kinds, in all parts of the province, and in fact, from Canada's perspective, right across the country. And we're going to continue to focus on tourism because it's so fundamental to the BC economy, particularly here in the Lower Island and on Vancouver Island. But I do believe that a marketing plan is critical, and a sense of comfort and peace and safety is critical within the traveling public. British Columbians need to get out, stretch their legs, go to other places, but they're not feeling particularly comfortable about that just yet. We've had great results in BC, but when you look at other parts of the country, in fact, when you look just south of us in Washington, Oregon, and California, we've seen a spike in cases. Which, as we've been going down, they've started to dial back up again. And with the unrest and the large gatherings that are putting at risk countless people, I think we'll see an increase in the number of cases south of the border, which means we're going to remain absolutely vigilant on keeping our borders closed until adjoining communities have better results when it comes to managing COVID-19. Saying no to U.S. tourists in Victoria is a very difficult pill to swallow. I absolutely understand that. But I think the public is behind me on this. We want to make sure that our reopening is safe. And if that means we have to help businesses in other ways, we're absolutely prepared to do that. We have $1.5 billion in recovery funding, not yet allocated. Obviously, the tourism sector is a key target of ours to make sure we get people moving around as quickly as we can within BC. And then those resources that we have at our disposal to help industries will be there, and we'll take it on a case-by-case basis. Domestic travel will not fill the void of international travel. I had a very long discussion with the CEO of Air Canada, and they're hemorrhaging enormous amounts of money every day, not just because of their operations here in British Columbia, but across the country and indeed around the world. And it's not just British Columbia that's closed its borders. It's not just British Columbians who are tentative about having people come from away. This is an international phenomenon. It is a global pandemic. And I think it's important to remind listeners and readers and those who are watching right now that these are unprecedented times that require extraordinary measures by a whole host of people, not just in government, but in business and civil society and right across the board. And I do understand the impact that a lack of international travelers will have on the tourism sector, but I can't wish those travelers to appear, and I will not limit the border restrictions that are in place until such time as I can guarantee the public health of British Columbians. And I think tourist operators understand that, and British Columbians certainly do. But that doesn't mean we're turning our back on the sector. I'm trying to get people to travel around, to go to places like Barkerville and others, and I'm confident that people will do that when they get the opportunity. And that's showing support for British Columbia, for BC companies, for BC attractions that are so envied by the rest of the world. We should take advantage of it ourselves this summer to try and fill some of that gap. But I'm under no illusion. We will not be able to replace the countless travelers that come from the U.S. and internationally to enjoy British Columbia this summer. As Dr. Henry says, it's for now, it's not forever.